Foxborough, Massachusetts. A nice place to visit unless you happen to be the Los Angeles Raiders. For the Silver and Black, a trip to New England has been about as much fun as an overnight stay at the Bates Motel. The Raiders have never won in Foxborough and haven't earned a victory of any kind in Massachusetts since 1969. In fact, the Patriots are the only team in the NFL to hold a winning edge in their all-time series with the Raiders. But history lessons aren't all that concern Los Angeles at the moment. Quarterback Mark Wilson has been pressed into service due to an injury to starter Jim Plunkett. Wilson will try to generate an attack that has been struggling in recent weeks. The Raiders have lost 2 games in a row by decisive margins, and their defense, led by All-Pro Howie Long, who is himself a native of Massachusetts, hope to rebound. In their last 2 defeats, the Raiders allowed an un-Raider-like 70 points. There are 2 offensive weapons the Patriots will be relying upon against L.A. One is second-year running back Craig James, who leads the team in rushing. While James teams with Tony Collins to form the core of New England's running game, quarterback Tony Eason is the man who will try his luck against the Raiders' traditionally tough pass defense. A victory for New England would keep them in first place in the AFC East, while struggling Los Angeles must win to stay afloat in the Western Division. The previous records indicate the Patriots should win, but sometimes history has a way of not repeating itself. From Sullivan Stadium in Foxborough, it's the Raiders and Patriots in the NFL Game of the Week. On the Raiders' first play from scrimmage, the Patriots seemed determined to keep their Foxborough hex intact. Number 42, Ronnie Lippett, picked off Mark Wilson's toss, and within minutes, the Pats led 3-0 on Tony Franklin's field goal. Things didn't get much better for the Raiders when they tried their running game. Ranked next to last in conference rushing, L.A. did little to improve those numbers in the early going. With the offense sputtering, the Silver and Black defense literally took matters into its own hands and struck for the first of several key plays they would make in the game. Number 37, cornerback Lester Hayes, picked up his 4th career interception return for a touchdown, and the Raiders led 7-3. Then their run defense tightened up as defensive end Howie Long, number 75, put the clamps on the Patriots' Tony Collins. The rushing lanes appeared to be a bit congested, so Tony Eason decided to throw. His primary target was second-year wide receiver Irving Fryer, number 80. First, Fryer beat the Raiders short. Then he turned on the Jets and flew right by everyone as New England quickly regained their lost lead. Fryer had been the top pick in last year's NFL draft, but 1984 had pretty much proven to be a lost season for the former Nebraska All-American. An injury had sidelined Irving, but now in '85, Mr. Fryer is ready to burn as he blazed a 40-yard touchdown trail through the Raiders' secondary late in period 1. Fryer's feet earned him a hearty hand, and a handshake or two from the Foxborough faithful who have been waiting a long time to cheer the speedy receiver. The Patriots were back on top 10-7, and for now, their Massachusetts mastery over the Raiders appeared to be holding up quite well. New England had proven they could throw deep, and now the Raiders were anxious to show they could wing it themselves. Quicker than you can say okie dokie, Mark Wilson completed his first touchdown pass of 1985. A wide-open Dokie Williams, number 85, was on the receiving end of the 38-yard bomb. And as the first period concluded, L.A. was back on top, 14-10. Williams entered this season with a lifetime average of better than 21 yards per catch. He is clearly the heir apparent to Raider great Cliff Branch, the deep threat that the silver and black always seem to possess. Throwing the ball seemed to be what was working for both clubs. So Tony Eason continued to toss, firing 3 straight completions on the next drive that put the Patriots deep in Raider territory. Number 83, Cedric Jones, hauled in Eason's first throw. Then it was time for the Pats' all-time leading receiver, Stanley Morgan, number 86, to join in the pass-catching cavalcade. The longest gain of the march came when running back Tony Collins ran a circle pattern that easily beat coverage and picked up 36 yards. But from the 2, the Raiders held fast. So the Pats had to settle for Tony Franklin's second field goal of the game, narrowing the LA lead to a single point at 14-13. Then matters only got worse for the Raiders as number 77 defensive end Kenneth Sims dropped Wilson for a loss. Soon after, the Raiders' special team simply dropped the ball, a miscue that would cost them dearly. Alert Andre Tippett, number 56, picked up punter Ray Guy's fumble and scooted in for an easy score. The Raiders had to be talking to themselves after a play like this. Maybe there was something to the Patriot jinx after all. Despite several big plays, L.A. trailed by 6, a margin that would be sustained at halftime. Something else that would be sustained was the Patriot pass rush that kept Mark Wilson scrambling throughout the rest of the second quarter. Wilson actually did a pretty good job of keeping damage to a minimum as he picked up some yardage on foot, but gained more when he scurried to safety, then launched passes to the league's leading receiver, tight end Todd Christensen, number 46. Christensen picked up 5 catches on the afternoon, 3 of them coming on the Raiders' final drive of the first half. LA appeared to be very close to a go-ahead score, or at least a field goal, when Wilson spotted Dokie Williams for a sizable gain. But a holding penalty wiped Williams' catch off the books, and from there the Raiders were unable to threaten again. LA had not played all that badly, and the Patriots, while ahead, had certainly not dominated. If the Raiders were to come back, they would have to do it with their trademark, the sudden strike, the big play. In the second half, Coach Tom Flory's squad would end the Foxborough Hex with a big play, all right, but such moments would come not from the passing game or an electrifying run, but from a defense that would cash in on every opportunity it got. Trailing 20-14 at the half, the Raiders' defense took control of the game effectively and decisively in the final 30 minutes. Howie Long, Lyle Alzado, and friends stamped out New England's offense completely. It must have seemed to the Patriots that there were Raider defenders everywhere, and for most of the second half, there were. Mike Davis's near interception early in the third quarter was only the tip of the iceberg. A Raider defensive avalanche would soon follow. Offensively, Los Angeles was looking for leadership from quarterback Mark Wilson, and the former Brigham Young All-American responded by nailing Dokey Williams down the sideline for 55 yards. But misfortune soon struck Wilson. With 4 minutes gone in the second half, Wilson injured his ankle escaping from the Patriots' rush. He was forced to leave the game. It was a tough pill to swallow for the Raiders' quarterback, making his first start of the season in place of an already injured Jim Plunkett. Next on the depth chart was rookie Rusty Hilger, the Raiders' sixth-round draft choice, and a young man with no experience in an NFL regular season game. But on this beautiful fall day in New England, it wouldn't matter who was quarterbacking the Raiders. This was a day for defense, and the Warriors in silver and black not only shut down the Patriots, they also put points on the board. Lyle Alzado's fumble recovery in the end zone late in the third quarter put the Raiders ahead 21-20. It was a lead the Raiders would never relinquish. It was the second touchdown of the game for the Raiders defense, a unit that had been burned rather easily a week earlier by the world champion 49ers. But this was another day, and Raider pride and poise had resurfaced in a big way. With more than a quarter left to play in Foxborough, the defense was not finished yet. History may not have been on the side of the Raiders, but there's nothing like the present to make one forget the past, particularly when the present is a time for celebration. The score was Los Angeles 21, New England 20. It was still the third quarter, plenty of time for the Patriots offense to do some damage. Not today, however. The major damage inflicted in this game was done by the Raiders' defense. No Patriot was safe from the wrath of Howie Long, Rod Martin, Lester Hayes, Brad Van Pelt, and the others who totally and efficiently manhandled all attempts by New England to move the ball. Patriots did not penetrate into Raider territory until late in the fourth quarter when the outcome had already been decided. They were constantly forced to punt from deep in their own territory. When they did, they were hurt by the returns of the Raiders' Fulton Walker, number 41. Walker's 23-yard return of a Patriots punt from their own end zone gave Los Angeles outstanding field position at the New England 23-yard line. The Raider defense had dominated, but the score midway through the final period was still 21-20. Rusty Hilger and the offense needed to get something on the board. The rookie no doubt had the jitters. His first 6 passes were incomplete. With that in mind, the Raiders ran 4 straight times, 3 by Marcus Allen, number 32. From the New England 2, Hilger completed his only pass of the game, a pretty rollout toss to tight end Todd Christensen. The Raiders had increased their advantage to 28-20 with the first offensive touchdown of the game since the opening period. It wouldn't be long before their defense once again got into the end zone. New England's next possession ended abruptly when Los Angeles defensive back Sam Seal, number 43, picked off Tony Eason's pass and raced 38 yards for the score. Seal's touchdown was the 3rd defensive score of the game for the men in silver and black, and it effectively ended the competitive phase of this contest, even though more than 5 minutes remained to be played. The Patriots were a thoroughly beaten team. A game they seemed to be in control of at the end of the first half had completely been taken away from them by an overwhelming Raiders defense. Just for good measure, the defense forced one more turnover, an interception by linebacker Jeff Barnes, number 56. The second half at Foxborough had been Raider football at its best, highlighted by overpowering defense, physical intimidation, and opportunistic play. The Pride and Poise boys, shaken by the 49ers a week before, had something to prove against New England, and they did it in typical Raider fashion. Nothing fancy, just play harder and tougher than your opponent. This was an important victory for Tom Flory's team. In the NFL's most competitive division, the AFC West, a loss would have dropped the Raiders to 1-3 and into last place. Now with this victory over New England, they evened their record at 2-2, just a game behind the surprising Kansas City Chiefs. A showdown with Kansas City is next. You can bet the Raiders have not forgotten the pounding the Chiefs gave them a few short weeks ago. On this day, however, the Raiders finally put to rest the Foxborough Hex. Their first victory ever against the Patriots at Sullivan Stadium was earned by the defense. The final from Foxborough, the Raiders 35, the Patriots 20.